and not enough tree roots and plants sometimes. They shade and cool your homes, which is very important in the summertime. They can block winter winds, which will help keep your house warm in the winter, provide food and shelter for wildlife, if you want wildlife. Not everybody wants wildlife. Some people are like, how do we kill the birds? How do we kill the worms? How do we kill the frogs? They're all bothering me. How do we get rid of them? Other people are like, oh, the kids, I want to feed them. We're not all like that. How do we eat them as much? Reduce pollution. Can improve your aesthetics. Of course, they give you oxygen. A lot of people don't think about that. What happens if we cut down all the trees and cut down all the plants? We still would get some oxygen, but not as much. We need oxygen. They also give us the ultimate sacrifice. They become firewood or your house. Keep that in mind. We got to have trees. What kind of trees should I plant? Maybe a tree that will last forever. This one is Methuselah, who is said to be 4,843 years old. That is proclaimed to be the world's oldest tree. Anybody have one like that? That's not an eastern species. Maybe you want one that lasts forever and will survive on the East Coast, like in the sunny South. Yes, we can grow live oaks in Atlanta, but unfortunately, a lot of times they look like green bushes. They take forever to grow in clay soils, but sometimes we have some large live oaks. And this one is one of the oldest ones on the East Coast. It's in Charleston, and it is said to be 1,500 years old. Maybe you want the tallest tree in the world. Maybe not if it's next to your house. This is California redwood, said to be 370 feet tall. They do not grow in Georgia. We have dawn redwoods, but they get big enough, not 375 feet tall. Maybe you want to grow the world's largest tree in size. This one's called El Tule in New Mexico, said to be 2,000 years old. Also, they said that when the Spaniards came in the 1500s, it was already 140 feet around. Maybe you want to have the world's most unique tree, a banyan tree. This one is actually in the mulberry family. The story goes that Alexander the Great and 7,000 of his troops were sheltered under one banyan tree. That's a pretty good sized tree. You might not want one that big. On an urban lot like we have, that would be your lot. Maybe your house too. You'd have to build a tree house. So what we should be looking at helping people get the right tree for their situation. One that fits their site conditions, actually one that will fit their lot, and maybe one that will answer these questions. How are we going to use this new tree? What will it do to enhance your house? Will improve the aesthetics. We're looking for fall color. You know, a lot of trees have really good fall color. Do we want flower, or we don't want any flower because it makes a mess? Do we want some to have fragrance? Do we want to have fruit like sweet cucumbers? No, probably not. Do we want fruit like little cherries falling all over the driveway? Maybe not. So you need to think about what the benefits or maybe what the bad traits of these trees might be also. You also need to consider these things before you plant a tree. Space limitations. If your lot is like 15 by 20, you're probably not going to want to plant a mature evergreen magnolia tree, because those magnolias can easily spread 25, 30 feet and be 80 feet tall. So maybe that's not what you want to use. So you need to help people find something that will fit their lot size. You got to keep soil and drainage conditions in mind. You got a wet, soggy soil, maybe they need a tree that will grow in a bog, or maybe they'll need one that will soak up that extra water. Think about how much sun. Not all trees grow in heavy shade. There's a few that will do in partial shade. Climate conditions. We're going to try to grow something we grew in New York. Let me see what we grew. Like a deciduous larch or something like that. No, not going to grow those. People try to grow stuff from their parts of the country when they come to Atlanta all the time. Or, one Pikes likes to sell. It's the little Alberta spruces. Anybody have an Alberta spruce that's still alive? It's from Alberta, Canada. What does that tell you? It's not Alberta, Georgia. Sometimes they just don't grow here. People want to grow Colorado spruces. Sometimes if you get them in the right spot, you'll be lucky enough to keep it alive. But normally, they're not going to last very long. Where the tree was nursery grown, that has a lot to do with it. You know, a lot of times now we're ordering online. You're buying something from Oregon or Washington. Think about their conditions out there. They have better soil, they got better climate, they have fewer pests, and you bring it over to Georgia, you stick it in a clay pit, no water, and all kinds of pests. You better be buying something that grew in Georgia to begin with, because it's already adapted over here. So you'd be much better off growing something that was grown on the East Coast in the Piedmont area, actually, like a Tennessee Piedmont or something would do fine. Is it an invasive species? Yes, our nurseries still sell invasive species because nobody has clamped down to regulate what kind of plants they can sell yet. So they're still selling Bradford pears. They're still selling nasty silver maples. They're still selling crappy purple leaf plums. So just because they're at the nursery, it doesn't mean they're a good tree or even a good plant. So make sure you're helping people get a good plant. Whatever your reason, we want to pick a good tree species. That's one that's well adapted to our area. Like we talked about from the nursery already, we want to get a good, healthy specimen. We want to pick it out as much as we can. Maybe not even have your landscaper or whatever pick them out. Go with them and pick them out. And then we want to plant it correctly and grow it well. Take good care of it. So our goals for today, we're going to talk about some trees that will work in different situations. So you have some you can recommend. We're going to identify some that are commonly found in Metro Atlanta that are not necessarily planted. They may have come in on their own, like sweet gums. Anybody planting sweet gums? You don't have to plant them. That's right. Anybody planting loblolly pines? You don't have to plant those either. You're going to get them. And then we're going to learn to recognize some of the trees we should help people avoid, because there are many trees that are just maintenance issues that we need to help people not grow or get rid of. We're going to start with some of the smaller trees. These sizes are, how would you say? They're not definite. You know, sizes vary based on location, soil conditions, how well they're growing, all kinds of things. So these are like average sizes. First one, of course, everybody knows is our native dogwood. The handout we gave you, if you're an intern, has the common and scientific names. And the reason we gave scientific names is if you want to go buy them at the nursery, that's what you got to buy them from, scientific name. Because common names do not work. Everybody has their own common names for stuff. So you're not going to find a lot of them if you give them the common name. Flowering dogwood is good 4-season interest tree. It had some dogwood blight issues a couple of years back that was primarily in North Georgia, and that was a fungal leaf spot. And it was mostly a problem where they were too heavily shaded and not drying out very fast. So we never really had a dogwood blight issue in Metro. So if you grow them in the right location, that's not really an issue. There are many cultivars coming out. A lot of them are bred for better foliage color. They're also bred for, let's see if I have a picture of it. Yes. Also bred for blooms, pink, red. Also bred for variation of foliage. You get a lot of variegated dogwoods. Some people like them and some don't. There are some that have white and green variegation. Some have white, pink, and green variegation. A lot of variegated ones are not as sturdy as the other ones, so they don't hold up very well. And keep in mind, a lot of the reds and pinks are grafted. So if they have a graft union, you better be keeping all those sprouts cut off that come below the graft. Anybody know what happens if you don't? You'll get a call from somebody that says, my tree is half white and half pink because they were grafted onto a white wild rootstock, which is a much hardier tree. So if you let those sprouts come up, the white actually will eventually take over because it's a much stronger tree, and the pink will be gone. So Asian Coosa dogwoods, there's a lot of work being done with these, and they are somewhat superior to our native dogwoods because they are much more resistant to fungal leaf spots and a lot of the fungal issues. They can also take a little more sun than our native ones. They also have a later bloom than the natives. So if you want to grow both, what I would do is grow natives and then put in some of these, because these will bloom often into June and July. So you can extend your dogwood bloom. They also have a different fruit on them. It's much more like a big red raspberry. If you like wildlife, like some people, then these are good because wildlife love to eat these things. Very tasty little birds. And they're breeding them now for pink and different flower colors. And there are crosses between the native and the Asian. You'll see a lot of those around, and those are excellent plants also. Redbuds, a lot of work's been done on redbuds. This is the native one. It's probably the earliest bloomer we have in the spring, and pretty soon it will be popping out. It can take sun, part sun. They're mostly edge of the woodland kind of species, considered to be a small tree. Not particularly drought tolerant. A lot of people think they are, but if you get too much of a drought, they tend to defoliate. There's a lot of work done on them. You can get red foliage ones, like the forest pansy. In fact, if they don't want that crappy purple leaf plum, I would plant a forest pansy. It'd be a much better tree. They grow in Oklahoma, and there's another one called Texas. These are much more drought tolerant. You have a much thicker, fleshy leaf. They still have that pink purple bloom, but they're much more drought tolerant. And they got, anybody have a lavender twist? They were popular like 2 or 3 years ago.
Rising sun.
You have a rising sun? Is that a dwarf?
I was wondering if you noticed this since it's so new.
Oh, that's brand new, rising sun?
The yellow branching.
Has red, orange. The leaves are different color as they mature.
Is it a weeping one?
Yes.
No.
No. Rising sun.
Local nursery. Yeah, it's supposed to be a weaver, but you have to include it to get it to me.
That sounds good. This is a white flowering red bud. Why would you want a white flowering red bud? That would be a white bud, right? But there was this trend a couple of years ago. I don't know if anybody remembers when there was this thing that you wanted everything in your landscape to bloom white. Did anybody ever did that? That would be really boring. There's a national trend, though. All plants would have white blooms. Yeah. So you could get a white flowering red bud or a white bud. This is our Chinese fringe tree. Some people like it better than the native one because it's a much better bloomer than the native one. And it's almost a evergreen, considered semi-evergreen to evergreen, very similar in size to our native one. This is the native one. It's also called Grancy Graybeard, if you ever heard that name before. It's sort of an edge of the woodland kind of species. It blooms when azaleas and rhododendrons are blooming, so it makes a really nice combination with those. Very pretty plant, very tough, no pests. So that's another great advantage to it. Pretty slow grower too, actually. Purple smoke tree. Anybody have a purple smoke tree? That's another one you could use instead of wacky purple plum. You wouldn't need to prune it up into a tree farm though. It tends much more to look like a big purple bush. But it also has a green leaf form that has white smoky blooms. Very tough. It is native, very pollution tolerant, takes heat very well. It's pretty much indestructible, actually. Golden rain tree. That is not a native tree. It was really emphasized during our Olympics, 1996, I guess it was.
Yeah.
Because it bloomed during the Olympics. It's a summer bloomer. It has like bright golden yellow blooms, but it's a very trashy tree. Drops a lot of stuff. No matter what time of year, it's dropping something. Branches, twigs, flowers, seed pods. And they haven't said much about it, but I think it's kind of invasive, actually. They haven't figured that out yet. Anybody have a Franklinia? Yes, they're very easy to kill, hard to transplant, actually. This is native to Georgia, but it's no longer found in Georgia. It was pretty much wiped out by a fungus that came in with cotton production. And that fungus has stayed in our soil, so it's still kind of hard to get them going. But the nursery says if you get one that's big enough with a big enough root system on it, it will get established. It's sort of an edge of the woodland species. Has a nice bloom, almost like a magnolia, not fragrant. Has a seed, almost like camellias, nice hard-shelled seed, and wonderful fall color. Really outstanding fall color.
They've crossed it with something now, and it's supposed to be harder, but I haven't tried the cross. What's nice about this too, if you have healthy ones, they bloom in the fall.
Yeah. It's a great plant if you can get them. It's named for Benjamin Franklin by Bartram. He actually named it for his buddy. And what he did was collect it and take it up to the botanical garden in Philadelphia. So all the ones that people have been getting have been coming back from the Philadelphia nursery.
It's one of the Atlanta History Center.
Oh, yeah. Very pretty plants. Everybody knows about crepe myrtles, but there is a lot of work being done on crepe myrtles, mostly to get smaller size, more resistance to pest problems, more leaf color, different blossom colors. So there's a lot of work. The best thing you can tell people is to get the right one for their locations, because now they come in various sizes. And you know this one, the Natchez, that is a tree palm. It's going to get 25, 30 feet. That's one people like to prune down here. That's the one they usually murder, crepe murder. It's because they got the wrong crepe myrtle in that spot. So encourage them to buy the right ones. They come in various sizes now. There's some that are mid-size, that's like 8 to 12 feet. There's dwarfs now that are like 4 or 5 feet. And there's petites now that are even 2 to 3 feet. So just encourage them to get the right one for their locations. These are some of the newer ones coming out. These are smaller in size. Red Rooster, really a very bright red. It's going to be popular. But it's still going to be 8 to 10 feet tall. That's still considered a small crepe myrtle. Twilight Magic, really a bright pink, almost pink purple. Those are some of the newest ones coming out. Chase Tree Vitex. This should not be filmed, but this looks like what? Anybody grow up in the 60s? What's that look like to you? We had a lady call us because the county courthouse has a bunch of these out front. So she called up, she was like, the county is growing marijuana in front of the I said, yeah, well, this is DeKalb County. What do you expect?
My wife last year, I have a life experience, and also she had a helicopter.
Yeah.
He was came down, right in top how she went out to see, and they were all the, I guess they
had you in on infrared.
We found out that we were growing marijuana.
That's what they do now. They ride around with their heat sensors to see where they're growing and stuff. Maybe it wasn't that delicate. But this is what they're doing with Vitex now, growing them for different flower color. You got pinks and whites, purples. To keep them in a tree form, though, you do need to do some pruning. They tend to put on all kinds of suckers and spreads. So if you want them to look like a nice looking tree, you got to prune them. These are some of the new ones coming out. It's called the Daytona Heat Series for the Daytona Racer Football. Petty Blue is a new one, and there's another one called Dale White. And these are summer bloomers, so they'll bloom in summer when there's not a lot of other things blooming. So it's a really easy plant to grow, but keep in mind you will have to do some pruning. And keep in mind somebody might be plucking the leaves off, trying to roll them. Better warn them, you can't smoke these. Sourwoods, these are good native understory trees. Even when we say understory, though, we're talking about part sun or part shade, either way you want to look at it. They got to have some sun. They're not going to grow in total darkness under other trees. They're much more of an edge of a woodlands kind of tree. They're the ones grown for sourwood honey. Bees love these. They'll bloom like in June and July. And they also have great fall color. So a lot of people are planting them for fall color. And they thought that they couldn't take dry sites very well, but actually started to use them for small street trees too. They're a lot tougher than they thought they were. Anybody have sassafras? I love sassafras. I don't like this, though. That's what happens. They like to colonize. So if you plant one, then you have to deal with the little root suckers that come up all over the place. But what you can do if you're a master gardener is you can root those root suckers, give them to all the other master gardeners. And then it's called a pass-along plant, right? Or a invasive. But you can't beat it for fall color. It really has beautiful color. But it will tend to take over and form a little thicket if you're not careful. But you know what else will do that? Pawpaws do that too. Send up little root suckers all over the place. You have a pawpaw tree or a pawpaw patch. That's why you get a pawpaw patch. They'll root sucker all over the place. Witch hazel. Anybody have a witch hazel? This is really a wonderful focal point tree in a little woodland area. It does need at least partial sun though. Has a really fragrant bloom, and it's probably one of the earliest bloomers we have. You can smell them all over the place when they're in bloom. And they're breeding them for more flower colors. They're getting into oranges and reds and tangerines. And then it also has very good fall color. So it's an excellent small plant that could be easily used as a focal point in your landscape, actually. Pawpaws colonize. They put up little root suckers. I think I have a picture of the pawpaw. This is a yellowwood. Anybody have a yellowwood tree? We tried to promote them several years ago, but nobody really picked up on that. But it is a native tree, actually. And it is it's in the bean family, so it produces long panicles of white blooms, July and August, and then it produces, unfortunately, like black bean pods. A lot of people don't like those bean pod kind of trees, but it's a beautiful tree, great fall color. Trident maple, not a native, but it is a small maple. If you're looking for a small maple that's good in the landscape, very drought tolerant, and it still has good fall color too. It's used a lot now at commercial malls and parking areas because it's very tough. You really can't kill them. Japanese maples, everybody knows about Japanese maples. Right? I even have a New York Japanese maple in here. That one's grown in Westbury, New York, at a place called Planting Fields, which was like, you know where that is. Used to be like an old estate. I don't know how old this one is, but it's still only like 10 to 12 feet. It's one of the small threadleaf or cut leaf types, which grow much slower, and they are very valuable trees, very expensive to buy. So when you buy Japanese maples, you're usually looking for cut leaf or the normal leaf varieties. You're looking for differences in the leaf colors. Get some that are variegated, some that are different colors of green, different colors of red. So there are like hundreds of varieties of Japanese maple.
How much sun?
Most of them prefer like a half a day of sun. And some of them, they keep telling me, can take full sun, but if you get them in full sun, you really have to keep the water on them. So they have a very shallow fibrous root system. So you're gonna want to mulch them well and keep the water on them in a drought. Otherwise, they're likely to burn. But they're beautiful trees. Some of these are already blooming. Anybody seen any of these blooming already? I think the cold zapped a bunch of them the other day. These are probably one of the earliest blooming magnolias, star magnolia. It's not that small a tree though. A lot of people think these are going to be little itty bitty bushes. They can get 20, 25 feet in some. They can get a good size. And the big drawback, like I said, is that they come out when we're having our crazy Atlanta temperatures. And, it might be 70 one day, and the next day would be 30. And they get zapped usually. So they're trying to grow these that will bloom a little bit later in the year, get past some of our crazy weather. This is the other one closely related to it, saucer magnolia. Some people call it Asian magnolia. Some people call it tulip magnolia, but they have the great big tulip blooms. And they're blooming already too. They're gonna get zapped by the cold weather. That's their major drawback. You wait all year for them to bloom. They come out, we have a frost, and they're gone. So the rest of the year, they're not that attractive, actually. Sweet Bay, underutilized magnolia. Oops. This actually is a semi-evergreen that can be used for screening, and it is an excellent one for wet, poorly drained soils. And it can be used for screening plants too. It will make a good screen. And it gets probably 30 feet. And it's native even to wet, boggy areas around Atlanta. Has a fragrant lemon scented bloom. Blooms are maybe 3 inches in size. Smells almost like lemons or honey. So and it can be sheared if you like to shear stuff. Some people like to prune all the time. Shear it, it can be sheared. If you have to. This one you need to be careful about. It is a native though. A lot of people don't keep that in mind. It is a native, but it is highly invasive. And that is mostly because the birds eat the berries and drop them everywhere. So ideally, if you were going to use this, I would shear it as a hedge. That way you're shearing off the blooms and the seeds, and they're not going to be carried into the woods to come up again. But it is a native, very good evergreen, easy to grow, almost too easy to grow. Start to take over some woodland areas. Wax myrtles, native to Georgia coastal areas, good for wet or dry sites. It's becoming like the supermarket or commercial development tree, because they use them all over because they're very low maintenance. And they are evergreens. About the only issue they have is they get their tops frozen back every once in a while, but that can just be pruned out. Hollies, we've got a holly that came in. We should pass these around, see if everybody can figure out what happened to these hollies actually. This is a good Master Gardener question. I'm a homeowner, I brought this in. What's going on with this thing? See if you all can figure that out. We're talking about hollies. As you all know, there are lots of hollies. We even have some that are underutilized that we still need to use. Anybody ever see a nice luster leaf holly? It's a big leaf holly. They're very pretty plants, and they're hard to find. But there are many good hollies. A lot of them get very large, and people don't really keep in mind how big they can get. Like the school in Clarkston, they were like, we put it in when it was like 2 feet tall. We thought it would be small. Now it's too big. We want to cut that down. That's a beautiful holly. It's like 40 feet tall. But That's a Foster holly. This is the Burford holly. You know, these are the ones your builders give you. Put it next to your wall in front of your window. Pretty soon there is no window and no wall because it's too big. Nellie Stevens, another excellent one for screening, very popular for screens. Lots of ornamental cherries out there. What's that doing? Scanning memory. Yeah. That doesn't sound good.
The old thing. There it is.
Good job, good job. Technology can be a wonderful thing, only when it works. So everybody knows there are lots of cherries, and we need to encourage people to grow cherries correctly, though. Cherries like alkaline soil conditions. Anybody think we have alkaline soils around that land?
Oh, yes.
Run a soil test, you'll see. They really prefer like a pH of towards neutral, 7.0. So if you're gonna have people planting cherries, encourage them to soil test and try to fix that soil before they plant the cherry. Cherries in Atlanta though are short-lived, but a lot of people are like, well, how long is short-lived? It could be 25 years. That's short-lived. And they're like, I'm only gonna live here 3 years. Okay, plant a cherry. There are many cherries. Quansons, whoops. I do it. Keep hitting myself. Cuba. Wrong one. All right. Quanson cherries are one of the earliest bloomers. Their blooms actually come out before the leaves, and you can get them with the big double blooms like that. If you've ever been through Avondale and DeKalb County, they have a whole row of Quansons, really pretty. Okames are the ones that really became popular during the flower show. This is the one they would always push for early bloom. And it is pretty cold hardy. It can often bloom and keep blooming even through a cold spell. So it might already be blooming in some cases. Autumn cherries, anybody know about autumn cherry? It blooms in like fall, as late as November, December sometimes. And then it can bloom again in the spring. So it's getting to be popular because of that double bloom. Decatur used them, but look, I don't know if you can see where they planted it. It's like in a little 2-foot box. And they're wondering why they're declining. There are many cherries though, but they really need the right soil conditions. Pistache, this one is a sort of a southern mid-south area, Texas, Arizona. It's starting to move into our area because it is very drought tolerant, very pollution tolerant. Also has pretty good fall color there, as you can tell. Almost bright orange to red in some cases. It's not a small tree though. It can get 60 feet. So be careful if you tell people to put that in a small spot. Very easy to grow. If you ever look for a red maple, you'll find out quickly there are like hundreds of red maples, and not all of them are as good as the other ones. But primarily what they're growing them for is that red fall color. So if people want red fall color, you need to direct them to some of the better varieties like Red Sunset, October Glory, some of those that are known for their good fall color. But they're coming out with new red maples all the time. River birch. This is one the builders like to put right next to the side of your house too. So they think it's going to be a little itty bitty tree. Eventually it'll be about itty bitty 60 feet tall. Very, very fast growers. There is some new dwarf ones coming out. I haven't seen them though. I don't think they've been big in the South, but the rest of the country seems to be using them. The dwarf ones, I think they said they will get like 15 to 20 feet, something like that. That would be very nice.
Yes, this
Excuse me?
this birch tree is really bad on the septic tanks and the drain lines.
Yes.
They go,
It likes water.
oh,
That's what the name river means. Likes to be wet. So if you got any water around, it's going to grow into it. So that might be another one you could use if you had a wet spot and you wanted to dry up. Stick your river birds. their natural area is along creek banks and stream banks, wetland areas. Ginkgo, not native to the U.S. Actually, it was saved by some monks in China as bonsai trees. And if people want to plant ginkgos, make sure you tell them to plant a male ginkgo. Because if they plant a female ginkgo, you're going to get these. And those really smell really bad. They're like dogs had some issues all over the place. It smells really horrible. So you don't want to be walking on them. Like, imagine if these were all female ginkgo trees. What that would smell like over there. But they have great foliage, really interesting foliage, very few pest problems, and outstanding fall color. Best thing about their leaves is their leaves tend to all fall at one time. So it's not one of those you have to come back and rake every other day. All the trees should be like that. They just drop them and it's over. Then we don't have to go back and rake again.
What's the height?
This one will get about 60 probably.
When you're buying these, when you're young, my sister wants one of these.
Make sure it's a male.
What, how do you, I mean, does it say on the
If the
tag?
nursery doesn't know they got a male, don't buy it.
Okay.
And don't buy it from people that have grown it from seed, because they don't know it's a male or female until about 12 to 15 years, until they actually flower. They won't flower for about 12 to 15 years. By that time, it's a nice tree. You don't want to cut it down until you step on it. Then you want to cut it. Till you smell it, that's right. Then you'll want to cut it down. I have a funny story about that. The city of Decatur had two near a bank, and it had never seeded before. And then it started seeding, and they called me, and they were like, our ginkgo tree has some kind of disease. I said, no, you got a female ginkgo. Sorry. They're like, can you do something about it?
You sterilize it.
I can bring a chainsaw. What do you want to do? Sawtooth oak, for some reason, they want to put this on the invasive list, but it is a very good oak tree. It's not native. That's probably why they want to put it on the invasive list. But anybody know an oak tree that does not reproduce from having acorns? White oaks, they come up everywhere from acorns. So do red oaks and water oaks. There's nothing wrong with that. They just don't like it because it's not native.
57.
It's a good oak tree though, a very fast one, fast grower too. Our native elms should really not be grown because they still have a lot of disease issues called Dutch elm disease. The letters for that are DED, and that's what happens to native elms. They're dead because they get Dutch elm disease. So if you want to grow any elms, you can grow Chinese elms. And Chinese elms are like these. In fact, grow this one because this is patented by the University of Georgia. Whenever you buy one, we give money. So if you grow some of these, we'll be really happy. They patented this one, Alay, and another one called Athena. And they have really nice bark, mottled bark, so has good winter interest. Very fast growing, very tough. One of the things they haven't really told you yet is that it comes up very easily from seed. So I imagine in the future it will be classified as an invasive species. Not yet, but soon.
Is that also known as Zelkova?
No, Zelkova is a little different. It's much more of an upright V-shaped tree. Zelkovas are okay. They're kind of short-lived trees. It's another improved elm. And the native elms have been bred for resistance to Dutch elm disease, and the Elm Institute actually is starting to release some of the native elms that are supposed to be more resistant. So we'll see how that works. Yeah. Deodar cedar, it is a true cedar, but it is not a small tree. It's going to be 60 feet, maybe by 60 feet wide. Not a little bitty tree. It could be your whole yard if you're not careful. It's a beautiful tree, has very few pest or disease issues, but it is a large tree. Beautiful cones. The cones are held upright, which is also interesting. A lot of people just collect the cones because They're beautiful kids. American hollies, I didn't love it with the other hollies because this is a much bigger holly. This Native American one can get 40 to 60 feet. So again, you got to watch where you put it. Has a nice natural pyramidal form and great berry production. Cedar waxwings love to eat these berries, but you don't want to be parked near there when they do, because then you'll be headed to the car wash. My office mate parked her car right next to those, and when we went out from lunch, we couldn't even see out the windows. So we tried to go to the car wash, and they said they wouldn't wash it. It was too dirty for the car wash. Take that thing home. That's pretty bad. Cryptomeria, a lot of people think these are little bitty trees, and they do come in various sizes, but most of them will be easily 60 feet. And they are a replacement for leylands, and they are pretty much indestructible. We've had very few pests or diseases on them. They can grow in really crappy soil, because we dug a hole in solid clay, which took us 2 days to dig that hole because the ground was so hard. We soaked it for 2 days before that. And then we just stuck it in there and never watered it, and it still lives. That's pretty tough plant. And they grow fast too. Just a couple of large ones. I put leylands in here so you know how big they're going to get. A lot of people don't understand that they are large plants. This one is up at Reinhardt College, I believe. You see this guy down here? Yeah. He's like 10 feet tall. So this tree is like 70, 80 feet. In England, they say they'll be 100 feet tall. Around here, they won't make it to 100. They blow over before that. This is the other thing. People plant them too close together. They need to be spaced like at least 8 to 10 feet apart or more, not 2 feet apart. Otherwise, they shade out each other and they start to die back. They also get a lot of disease issues. We're going to pretty much move these up to second place behind Bradford pears because it's becoming such a landscape issue. It's hard to take care of. We're losing a lot of them. Little bitty southern magnolia gets about 80 feet with a spread of 60 to 80 feet. That would fit right in my front yard. That would be my front yard. But, you know, everybody knows the features of these. Great blooms, interesting seeds. And you will get more of them if you let them go to seed. I get magnolias all the time from my neighbor's yard. I'm always pulling out little magnolias. But if you want one that's much smaller, you should recommend like a dwarf, like Little Gem is one. It's a good one. Little Gems will get about probably 30 feet max. They still have the nice foliage and a smaller fragrant bloom. And I think they will bloom longer too. My Little Gem has blooms from as early as April and into the fall. So it has a much longer bloom. Those are seeds, and that's the bloom. I like to stick my nose in those too. Anybody else stick their nose in blooms? I can make something out of that stuff. That's what's good. Don redwoods, nice little bitty trees. Get 75, 80 feet very quickly. I have a guy that pesters me up in Dunwoody every year because he planted one, and for the first 10 to 15 years, it produced seeds that didn't germinate. But now every seed in the yard germinates. So he's calling me up every year. You want to get some of these, you master gardeners? Nah, they don't want them things. But it is a deciduous one. Keep that in mind. It's called a deciduous conifer. So in the wintertime, it's bare stems. This is how you tell them from a bald cypress. The Don redwoods have opposite leaflets arranged on the stem opposite, and the bald cypress have theirs arranged alternately. In fact, I remember it as ABC, alternate bald cypress. So when you look at the branches, you can tell right away this is a Don redwood. If it it was alternate, it would probably be a bald cypress. They look a lot alike otherwise. This is the native bald cypress. That's what it looks like in the winter. A lot of people are like, it's bare in the wintertime. I don't like that. It has a beautiful silhouette. That looks nice. Shine a light on there. That's pretty. Very pretty plant. Grows fast. One of the best oaks you can grow, willow oak, fast growing oak. Let me go through these little pastures so I can show you the ones not to grow. Black gums, good fall color. Everybody knows about white oaks. This is the Snellville white oak. Anybody ever seen that on 78? The arborist saved that tree. DOT wanted to cut it down. A bunch of arborists slept up in that tree for days, trying to keep it from cutting it down. Eventually, they decided to leave it there. It is a beautiful tree. Post oaks, very gnarly oaks. Scarlet oak. A lot of people forget that a lot of our oaks have good fall color. There are many that have very good red to orange fall leaf color. So if you need some fall color, oaks are good. These are ones you should be looking at avoiding. I want to see if you guys can. Anybody know that one there? We already talked about that one several times. Bradford pear has excellent fall color. Yeah. Oops, what I did there. It's not what I did. This crabapple. Why would we want to avoid crabapples? Anybody know? They're messy. They also get a lot of diseases. If you're buying crab apples, you want to make sure you get ones that are resistant to fire blight and resistant to scab, which is a summer leaf spot disease. So a lot of people buy bad crab apples. If you go to our local nurseries, guess what they're going to say? Bad crab apples. If you want a good crab apple, you got to go to somewhere that knows crab apples, because there are some that are very resistant to diseases. And one of the ones you might want to tell people actually is called the Callaway crab. It's one of the better crabs out there, grown from Callaway Gardens. Anybody know that one? Ailanthus. Its common name is called the Chinese tree of heaven. Can you imagine that? This is the tree that ate Brooklyn. Comes up in every crack and crevice in the urban area, and it's a really nasty smelling tree. In fact, you can't burn the wood because the wood is toxic. So when people cut it down, you're not supposed to burn it.
Is that also called a tree of paradise?
Nope, that's a little different. That one's out of Texas. This is out of Asia. You're going to see it all around 285 a lot now because it's coming in, spreading all over the place. Anybody know that one? That's a native. Fox elder. That actually is a native maple, but it's the trashiest maple you can get. It's a junk tree. Best thing to use that one for would be maple syrup. Because they said you can make maple syrup out of any kind of maple, so I would use that one for maple syrup. Maybe it would die. This is the China berry. Anybody have China berry trees? Good. Those are weeds too. They produce all these like hundreds of berries. Each one of them will come up somewhere. Somebody's probably going to like this one. This is a native. Anybody know what that is? That's a locust. Look at those thorns. Anybody want to climb this tree? When I was an arborist, this was the ones my boss made me climb. Gary, you see that thorny one over there? That one's yours. No thanks. Oh, how about that one over there? It's full of poison ivy. That one's yours too. No thanks. This is a black locust, which is also very thorny, not really a good shade tree. Ah, y'all know that one. Mimosa. Now, when you go to garden clubs, be very careful about this one, because most people are like, I love this tree. It encourages butterflies. Also grows in everybody else's yard once you have one, because they seed everywhere. Not a good tree. Best thing about it now is there's a new disease coming out called mimosa wilt. Very similar to Dutch elm disease. What I'm going to do is get some mimosa wilt and inoculate all these things. Mulberries. Anybody like mulberries? very tasty if you get any. The birds usually get most of them. But the red mulberry actually is native, but it's still very invasive. White and paper mulberries are not native, and they're just as invasive. Tend to get lots more mulberry trees. Very messy. Makes a great jam though, to get in. How about that one? Paulownia. Jimmy Carter's favorite tree. Be careful what you say about that one. Jimmy Carter wrote me a personal letter once that I was making fun of that tree. Because he was a member of the National Paulownia Society. He was like, we're trying to grow that thing because it's valuable for intricate carving. That's what they use it for over in Southeast Asia. So I wrote him back, I said, we'll be happy to cut them all down and ship them back over there. Because then they can have all the wood. He wasn't happy. He's probably lucky I didn't get fired because he was the president. He did send me a letter on presidential stationery. That was very nice of him. Silver maple. Anybody like silver maple? That's another builder tree. That's the one that people get. When you buy a new house, that's what you usually have. Silver maples, nasty purple leaf plums, Radford pears. That's what you can get. That's what the nursery is going to sell you. I need to talk to you next. He knows my lingo. We're from New York.
Yes.
That is a weeping willow. I sort of like weeping willows, but you need to have them in the right place. And like you said, not over your septic line because they will grow in and clog up your septic line. But they're good around wetland areas, stream banks, and those kind of things. Just make sure you get them in the right place. Everybody know these? You see them in the garden magazines all the time. They tell you about using them for a windbreak. They're not a windbreak for long because they usually break themselves. These are called Lombardy poplars. And they don't root well in our clay soil. So they'll get about this height, then they either blow over or break off. So they're not a windbreak for very long. So what to consider when you're buying a tree or planting a tree. Know the good points of what you're looking for, know the bad points. No, some problems are not worth worrying about. Yeah, your tree might get a few Japanese beetles, but it's not going to kill the tree. So that's not enough to keep you from not planting it. Or maybe it gets a few caterpillars. It won't kill it either. So think about what kind of issues they have. Think about how big they're going to get. You know, people buy a 1 gallon tree. They're like, oh, I stuck it in next to the wall of my house. Now it's 50 feet tall. What am I going to do? You should have moved that longer. What's your problem? That's what I tell them. You should have moved it. They love the top, man. You better talk to the master gardener. Your trees, possible pest disease issues. Some of them are significant. So if they get significant problems that are going to be a maintenance issue, don't encourage them to grow those. Don't plant American elms in those cases. Don't plant, don't plant problems because you're looking at a long-term thing. You put in an oak tree, it's going to be here another 100, 150 years. So maybe it's not going to be your problem, but it might be somebody else's problem. So keep that in mind. And that's the end.